Hello everybody, this is Intro You here, and we've got a video today, as you can see, on asking the question, why is everything taking so long, or rather, starting by asking that question, and we're going to be discussing a lot more stuff related as we get into the video. As you can tell, I went off script again. It never ends well. I just hadn't written an introductory thing for the start. Anyway, two things before I get into this video proper. Firstly, if you have seen or heard my previous videos, you'll probably notice their sound quality and just general lack of any editing whatsoever is not great. However, I'm pleased to say that I'm now working with a user by the name of Vicey to improve this. Basically, I've now got an editor with some talent rather than relying on my own half-hearted attempts. His channel link will be in the description of all the videos he edits from now on, but I should give a warning that his videos do contain swearing, and so, given this is all stuff about a LEGO game and it's a mod, I sort of want to remain child-friendly to that same level. Don't watch his videos if you're a child. They're not that bad, but I want to stick to LEGO standards. Probably just a shorter warning will be put in the description to those videos. Okay, so at the moment my screen has just turned blue. And so, yeah, okay, now I've got my script back. Okay, and before I get into the main content of this video, I'd also like to quickly clarify something else. I'm just hoping now if I disclaim this enough in new videos, they might reach a saturation level when people stop assuming this and I don't have to edit or take down old videos. I'm not a dev for any of the projects we talk about on this channel that you see in the description, or any which even really are still in the running. I am still, as my channel banner says on some devices, a developer for Jailus, but this is pretty much a technicality. Jailus is dead as a server project, and also I still work on aspects of it in my spare time. It's certainly never going to be the furthest ahead out of all the servers that I mention in these videos, and I work on it more from a modding standpoint now than from any other. Also, the banner is out of date, just in general. I'd definitely have mentioned being mod for DLU otherwise. And from a small shiny shield video I put up on here, that's just the name of the video, you'll notice that I do climb modding, and it's a really useful skill for understanding how the game works, but my ability in that field is utterly unrivaled compared to other developers out there. To clarify, I stress that can be taken in two ways, and I mean that mine has no hope of rivaling theirs. No, that still actually is ambiguous, so it can be taken both ways. Okay, I'm bad. That's better. Oh, and this is my first time ever, I think, working with a complete script. Normally I just write out a script, sort of take with sort of bullet point notes. Maybe I get too into it and the bullet point notes turn into something of a script, but I've never actually worked with a complete script. So yeah, we will see how this goes. So, the question for today. Why is everything taking so long? Okay, so we had some guy come onto the LCDRU Discord the other day and ask pretty much this exact question. I had to run to lunch right after I saw it, and so throughout my meal I spent pretty much the entire time annoyed and then ranted at the poor guy. Like, I stand by the fact that what he said was incorrect and insensitive, but yeah, probably didn't need to go so full on. Anyway, I've wanted to discuss a little bit about the developers for a while now, and I figured this was a good springboard to that topic. First off, though, I'm going to quickly refute the comment. The guy began with, "Dear Lord," compared reboot times between LU and Toontown, and in general was shocked and annoyed things had taken this long. Oh, I should add, this isn't just me attacking this one kid. It's not the first time I've seen this comment crop up, and I bet the reason it's as rare as it is not because people don't think it, is because they don't want to risk offending the devs or moderators, because devs might withhold keys, or moderators might do. Well, I don't know what moderators might do. They might, because we can't withhold keys, we can't give them out. They might do a me, they might rant at you. I don't know, that's the worst that could probably happen. My first comment is that it's really difficult to compare the restoration of two different games. I don't know the difference between the programming of Toontown and LU, but I do know some of the differences between other rewrites, such as Club Penguin and My LEGO Network and LU. And these differences are so vast as to make the two things definitely incomparable. Firstly, Club Penguin Rewritten was already pretty much available instantly once Club Penguin went down, especially by LU timescales. And why was that? It's not because the developers somehow instantly finished it, it's because the tech was already out there. People had already been developing their own private servers for the game. As a kid, I even used to play on one. Yes, one could argue that I'm passing the buck somewhat here. The development still took the same amount of time, it's just it was pushed back earlier. And to this point, I have some refutations of my own. Firstly, no one notices the development that goes into the rebuilding of a game before it actually was shut down. Early file formats used within LU, such as the PK compression format inside which almost everything is stored, had already been documented to some extent and discussed on message boards even before the game had actually been released. It had been discussed in, I think it was beta testing. But no one here considers that. Or users messing with scripts inside the PK files to teleport an free-to-play character to Nimber Station. That's time spent working on the reboot of this game, or certainly it's knowledge that was later used in the reboot of this game, but we never count that. And yeah, not too much of that happened with LU, partially because of its younger audience, but hey, you can make the same point about Club Penguin. Just realising as I write this that CP stands for both Club Penguin and Crooks Prime, which is going to make potentially reading this out a little more interesting. The real difference is that LU devs existed in a time before gaming is what it is today. Now the market is much larger, so there's a much larger pool of potential devs, as well as a culture which is far more likely to ask, hey, maybe I can make a private server for this. And so those extra years during which Club Penguin held on guaranteed it having this much larger community, and guaranteed that far more of that community would be interested in asking the question, can I make a private server? And then there's the obvious difference, which is the reason I actually suspect we get the time gap between Toontown and LU. The difference in what the devs actually have to do. And this is totally dependent on the structure of the game. And both in terms of broad client server structure and in terms of the small scale structures in the code. From an LU standpoint, the game is agreed to be a mess, so much so that it's something of a meme amongst the developers. There's everything from unnecessary extra work to work on, say, security, which is just utterly missing. Bear in mind that it's one of the first discussions I found when I visited the original SourceForge forums was about working on how the RACnet data, which had been recorded, was encrypted so that they could work out how to replicate it. For context, some of the devs around this time were barely teenagers. That should say a lot about how LU code is bad, and I can't really put my finger on any precise examples of this as I write this script, mostly because, as I mentioned before, I'm not a dev, so I don't really know enough about the client-server structure to properly work out what's going on. But LU code is weird. For in one of the captured packets, the phrase "talk like a pirate" was found. To clarify, that is all caps and with underscores in between the words. To this day, I believe, unless this is another thing for which DLU has discovered information and hasn't released it, we still don't know why that's there. Basically, LU's code is hugely unintuitive, which built an undocumented file format to create a tough problem and bugs which are nearly impossible to trace. Any game in which a breakthrough in the rewrite can be made completely by accident probably has something wrong with it. To clarify, I bring this up because missions were initially made to work by Footage Johnny completely accidentally, and there's a YouTube video of it out there somewhere. So, that's an overly long section on why it's really hard to compare two games directly, which leaves me with a quick interlude before I get onto the less technical and more psychological section of this video. What world do we live in which is somehow a right to some people this LEGO game, which released over 10 years ago, should be rebuilt with thousands of developer hours completely for free? That was one of the first things I thought when reading the comment, and I just found that really funny. Anyway, back to this stuff. I've been wanting to make this video since someone asked on LCDRU about donations, and I was like, hey, I'm going to respond with a little more of a thought-through answer than simply regurgitating the same legal reasons line, which, strictly speaking, isn't even properly valid. It's been a long night, for those of you who somehow don't know, given how often I bring it up. I'm a physicist at my first year of uni who's currently working on holography as a side project. As a short aside, this will also completely give away my identity if I get published or patented at some point. But at the point of getting published, I can live with that. Working on a project which had been ongoing for 7 years, okay, as I say it now, the parallelism seems far more obvious to ever be able to quit, and which had made a huge impact on my life. I think at the time I wrote this, I assumed that would flow better. I'm referring to holography here. And this huge impact has been both for better or for worse. I basically projected all my emotions onto LCDR, so it was possibly less of a response to this question than it could have been, since I was effectively just letting out steam myself. Or so it should have been, except for the fact that the next day LCDR sent a message saying I'd gotten it pretty much completely right. Since then, I've seen lots of other stuff from devs which pretty much mirrors my own experiences with physics, and in particular this holography project, and in general just they're being quite tired of how it has taken over their lives. So the main reason why I think, however long it takes, we should be hugely grateful to developers is this. Firstly, they are under a huge amount of pressure. Unironically, in my previous video about DLU's new testing phase, I discussed how game design can lead to making a game addictive. One of the common ways this occurs is simply giving the player enough of a feeling of progression that, if they stop, they feel like they're losing all that time they put in. Even Club Penguin lent into this angle, with the knowledge that your puffles would get lonely and run away if you left it for too long. Not just making them lonely and, say, happy when you get back, but actively running away, punishing you for not playing and taking away some of that progress you've made for no reason whatsoever, other than to hook people. The irony is that it's the game designers now who are suffering from this. LCDR and Darwin have been in this community spearheading their respective projects for years. They've spent thousands of hours on this. They know that they literally cannot leave. If they leave before finishing, then all that time they have put in has been a waste. And they have put in a lot of time. Lots of people here have found they have put in so much that it's literally altered the trajectory of their lives in significant ways. In many ways, it's like gambling, but the stakes just keep getting higher and higher, as every time commitment you put into this is a time commitment which will lose all meaning if you ever stop. You are literally betting your time on the amount of time future you will have, and his/her determination, in a totally non-Undertale way. And then, there's not just the pressure they're putting on themselves, but DLU has over 10,000 accounts signed up to their website. That's a whole lot of pressure. It's 10,000 people who you know that if you put yourself and your life first, you will disappoint. It plays into another aspect of addictive game design, which is playing off the sense of a community, and how community can keep you playing a game. Here, the community does add to their stress, and it comes to the ironic bit, which is that this wouldn't be happening if it weren't for the community, because you need some degree of impetus to keep working on a project this large, and certainly in the early days, that was important, and the feeling of community is a great way of getting encouragement and support. If anything, typically votes in the community always leave with the result, take care of yourself, over keep working on the server. It's an amazing thing, and it means the finished game will be worth playing. I'm definitely not insulting the community here, but I want to show that it can be a double-edged sword, and so whilst just being a member of this community can do some good, being a member of this community who tries to support the devs as people rather than just developers is so important, and will let you make so much of a better impact on the servers. In many ways, this is sort of an apology video from me to developers, although in particular to LCDR, since I've worked with him for far longer and more closely than most other dev teams, for being someone who's primarily focused on the server rather than on looking out for the developers as people. And this leads nicely onto a conclusion of sorts, because this explains, to some extent, why the server projects aren't accepting donations until live. Legally, there is no difference. Why not now? Why only in live? Surely there'd be legal problems with people. Sure, there'd be legal problems with people donating to get keys, but a simple disclaimer would fix that, saying donations will not lead to you getting a key. And there's no real legal difference between a partially complete server and a complete server. So the problem is the fact that no one will be donating for the work that had already been done on the server. They'd all be donating for the work to come, and with the expectation that there would be work to come. And the devs know that. That means that not only would they feel the pressure of watching their progress, they would now also feel some sort of debt towards those people who donated to them, which raises the pressure even further, meaning they need to take up more time out of their lives. Once we get to live, this is completely reset, and suddenly donations are for thanks, not for server upkeep, neither of which place significant pressure on the lives of the developers. The crux, pun only intended after I'd already written it, of this matter is that I know for years I wasn't really understanding the developers as people. Sure, I'd say take time off if they ever asked in a poll, but that wasn't because I was truly empathising with them. It was because I wanted to be seen as a nice person in the eyes of the community. Obviously, that wasn't my conscious thought process, but when I think back to it, that was probably what was subconsciously motivating most of what I did back then. And it's this which has led to the disconnects between developers and people in the community most of the time, which has in turn led to loads of problems in places like the OUCH. The devs come to the OUC, to clarify, I've been discussing with Vicey the fact that there are some videos I don't put out because they're not like happy videos. They're not videos which are sort of fun for me to produce, etc. And his instant reaction was, so basically you're painting a false picture for development. So I was like, oh god, am I? My comeback to this was mostly the fact that I'm not actually ever misrepresenting where the servers are at, and I try not to misrepresent the community now, but I do brush over stuff like past politics. I know I mentioned early on several times the fact that I wanted to make a LU server politics video, and I literally recorded that video. I could have put it out, but it just didn't feel it didn't feel like something that would make anyone happy. It certainly wouldn't make me happy. It would just be dredging up the past for its own sake. And so when I discussed loads of problems in places like the OUCH, I'm not going to go into details to what those problems were, but they're problems which the Community Hub definitely had in the past. And whilst it's arguable some of the things still remain, it hasn't been anywhere near as much of a problem in the past years, which is why I don't dredge stuff like this up and the specific details, because there's no point. But what fueled this stuff in the past was a disconnect between developers and people in the community. And I think we can actually now, thinking from this perspective, trace what caused that disconnect, and thus what caused all these problems. Is that the devs come to the OUCH so they can hang out with people, or discuss technical things in hashtag development, but almost everyone in the server just wants a key. And that's a motive for most of their actions. Maybe you're all sitting at home thinking, nope, that's just you. I do genuinely empathise with the devs. In which case, great. I've not only just exposed the fact that I was fundamentally a rubbish person for the first few years or so in this community, but I've done it with a YouTube video that will get a fair number of people coming into the community, knowing as their only thing about me the fact that I was a bad person. But I suspect I'm not the only one who was, and I think it's average. The internet allows us to be more disconnected with people. That's one of its defining characteristics. And so perhaps take the time to find out what a dev is interested in outside of LU, because that side of them is a person too, and often it is far more interesting and likable than the simple two-dimensional developer you'd otherwise know, who just spends their time working on their universe. Now, I've just seen my script ends here. And I remember that now that I've come to think about it, that I never did finish writing this solution that hopefully makes this seem like it was a good use of your time listening to the video and doesn't utterly dissuade you from ever coming back here. Yeah. What was I trying to get across throughout this entire video? What I'm trying to get across is the fact that the developers are people too, and if you view them through that lens, not only does it give you the chance to sort of understand things, it gives you for one thing a reason, a way of understanding yet another reason why developers are scared of committing more time to it. You know you have to commit more time to it, but you also know that for all the extra time you commit to it, you are also sort of putting future you in a really difficult position. And so, whilst you're incentivized to spend more time on it, you're also disincentivized, and it puts you in a really paradoxical position. So, I hope that answers, or gives yet another reason as to why LU server development isn't finished yet. I could talk for ages. I could do a proper video on why, on what's going on coding wise, and maybe I'd try to at some point, but that's not exactly my specialty. I know a lot about it, but I'm not the best at it. I'm not a developer. I'm not someone who actually has had the technical side impact their lives for years. So this is possibly the thing I can be the most informative about at the moment, and I hope this helps, not only to explain what's taking so long, but also to explain maybe a little bit my first best guess as to what the developers are thinking. Because obviously I'm not right. I can't possibly know exactly how the developers feel all of the time. But what I can know is what it's like to work on a project for years without having had any payoff for, the past 7 years in my case. And let's face it, it pretty much runs parallel to the amount of time the DOU developers have spent on theirs, LCDRU has spent on their server. And okay, I'm not saying I'm under anywhere near as much pressure, but the fact that I feel under pressure as it is with a physics project that, let's face it, no one cares about, in fact, I already feel under a lot of pressure from that, and don't have 10,000 fans interested in my project, and I'm already feel under pressure, that's just, wow. I can't imagine how they feel, and I suspect many people in the community haven't tried to. So if you take something out of this today, either take out the fact that you're an amazing person because you have been empathising with the devs for years now, and that I'm just a rubbish guy, or take from it the fact that maybe you will get more out of this community by just hanging out with people. We're not a gaming community at the moment, and one of the things that the DLU forums have had a problem with is the fact that every topic to discuss about LEGO Universe, that's already been discussed. We've got what people's favourite factions are. We know the distribution of it. You can always reply to the thread, but it's one reply and there's never a hugely interesting conversation to be had after that. No one's discovering any new game mechanics, typically, aside from speedrunning things. And so, yeah, as a community, you'll get some stuff out of it if you just do what I did for the past 2.5 years, which is just sit and be really focused on the game and really focused on the keys. But that's not the best way of getting to know people in the community. And I've for ages been looking at how can people get into the community so quickly and like respecting the developers so quickly, because I was sitting on the DLU forums for years before anyone even noticed I existed. That's not true. They had to moderate all my things. But the point is, the reason people get respect from the devs really early on, fact, from internal DLU discussions, was how they viewed people like me. And it's fair enough, because to a huge extent, I probably was. So yeah, I hope this makes you view LU server development in a little bit of a different way. And yeah, hopefully you're not all thinking, wow, you're just a rubbish guy. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I hope the quality of this video has turned out better, partially for having a script and partially for the fact that I've now got someone who's actually talented at editing on my team. And yeah, this entire video has been about the developers and about supporting them. And one thing which I do think is useful to supporting them is subscribing to their channels and following them on Twitter. The reason I say this isn't just sort of a subliminal message that I hope people will do the same with me, as I have been accused of, but just sort of that's the reason why I always leave the subscribe to developers message. I've been accused of that being solely so that people subscribe to me. And I realised, yeah, actually, it probably could be taken in that way. But you should subscribe to the developers' channels because it's a way of putting a number, of increasing the number of people who they know are interested in it, but without providing too much extra pressure. And a number increasing can just be like, oh, that's nice. And so just have developers know there are people there without it directly being people who are, say, on the Twitter posting questions about, for instance, why is it taking so long? Let the developers know you care about them as people, as the summary of this video, and I'm going to stop rambling because I noticed that the video was about 17 minutes when the script ended, and we're now at about 25 minutes. So Vaisky's going to have his work cut out for him. Anyway, so long. I've been Ninja.